Hey, everybody. Welcome back to our series AI in Focus live stream, where we actually talk about and then implement in real working code features using various techniques in artificial intelligence. I'm one of the hosts, Chad Pytel. I'm the CEO of thoughtbot and founder and developer. And today I'm joined by Aji. Aji, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So I am not in my normal setup today, Aji. I'm actually in London,
Mhm.
England. Um, so I'm way ahead of time. You can see in my from the screen share, it's 5 p.m. where I am.
Mhm.
And I'm here this week visiting our amazing team and clients that we have throughout Europe, West Asia, and Africa, um, and meeting clients in London and being able to do calls in those time zones. Many people don't know that we actually have a team of people based in these time zones that actually works with clients in these time zones. Many people think of thoughtbot as, oh, you're based in the US and you're a US company. Well, we've actually intentionally created a separate team of people based in this time zone region so that we can work in the way that we want, which is highly synchronous, directly with clients, and not have to have our team members shift their time zones. And so, if you're located in this region and you're looking for a great design and development company, particularly one that uses Ruby, we're here for you. And Aji is in the Americas and works
That's
with
right.
clients in those time zones as well.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 would recommend everybody on the uh, Europe and West Asia team, Africa.
Awesome. So today, what we're going to do is we are going to implement a feature on the thoughtbot.com blog. And this is actually a re-implementation of a feature that we used to have on the blog that we first created in 2018. In 2018, we used rudimentary machine learning techniques to recommend related articles on the blog. And that got stale over time. The suggestions weren't wonderful, particularly when we first implemented it. I think we had 1,500 blog posts from 2018 to 2024. I'm remembering what year we're in here. We published 1,000 more blog posts. So the number of blog posts went from 1,500 to 2,500. And we saw as it sort of went up that the quality of them went down as well. And not the quality of the posts, the quality of the recommendations.
Good catch.
So I have up on the blog, I have up on the screen here our blog. It's called Giant Robots Smashing into Other Giant Robots. And we have a lot of great articles on the blog, a variety of different topics: design, web, iOS. We just published actually today or today UK time an announcement post about a new resource to learn Hotwire by building a podcast player. So if you click through there, you can see this great post. Oh, you can see, look, we're live on Twitch streaming. um, I guess that feature works. Um, and you can see at the bottom of the post, this is the live version of this that we're going to be working on today. You can see that we're getting 3 recommendations, and they all have to do with Hotwire. So it's working, and they're pretty decent recommendations. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do today. You excited, Aji?
I am. One quick question is, so this that we're looking at right now is using the kind of LLM driven techniques that we're going to be doing today.
Yeah, so sort of like pulling back the curtain a little bit. I've already implemented this once, and so I'm walking through that implementation again. Well, from live from scratch, but yes, I have implemented it once, and it's actually live on the blog now.
Awesome.
So in today's we've been sort of looking ahead at the future live streams. So in last week's one, I mentioned specifically this week, we're going to have a component where we address some of the privacy concerns that you might run into if you're using an LLM from a third party, where you might be sending your information to them. And we've covered over the various live streams that we've had different techniques for dealing with that. And today is like the ultimate technique, which is running your own LLM model on your own server that you control, so that you're never sending your private information or your company information to a third-party service. So we're going to implement this solution using both OpenAI, and then we're going to show how easy it is to replace that with an open source LLM that is running locally on my computer.
Excellent.
Have you done much AI development yet, Aji?
I haven't with clients yet. I haven't worked with anyone that has been implementing features like this, but I've done a lot of exploration and kind of learning on my own. It's funny that this is the project we're working on, because one of the first things I did was threw the entirety of the thoughtbot blog into a local LLM so I could chat with the blog as I was coding. That was pretty fun.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, one of the things that I hope people get if they've never done this before, and it's been the message that I've been sort of saying again and again throughout these streams, is, most of this is actually, you're talking via an API or a sort of RESTful API, or a stream-based API, depending on how you access it. And we know how to do that as Rails developers. So that's what I hope we demonstrate today, that we have the tools and techniques to use. And in particular, we're going to use embeddings to implement this feature, which means that we are able to talk to the LLM once to get an embedding or representation for the article, and then never talk to the LLM again. When we're building these recommendations, we're not talking to the LLM live. So I'm excited to show people that. One of the things we first always do before we start implementing a feature is we take a look at that feature through the lens of our AI ethics guide. And make sure that we're headed down the right track. The field of AI is changing constantly, so this is more about asking the right questions than it is about definitive right and wrong answers. So we'll run this. This feature is pretty straightforward. So we'll run through this pretty quickly. But one of the things is, how will we ensure that our AI systems are transparent and understandable to humans? This feature, I think, is pretty transparent and understandable to humans, but we're also going to do a few things in particular that mean that you can always, it's public. You can see the recommendations. I'm going to skip ahead to human control and safety and security. So how have we ensured that our AI systems are always under human control and don't make decisions that cannot be overridden by humans? A big part of seeing that question, and we say, okay, what if we're getting recommendations that aren't good? How do we deal with that? And what we're going to do is we're going to add a manual relationship to related articles that can override the LLM recommended articles. So we can override that, so that provides a certain level of human control. How we guaranteed the safety and security of our AI systems and prevented them from being used to cause harm. Do you think that system is prone to being used to cause harm? I can't think of a way.
Yeah.
How we ensured clear accountability and responsibility of our AI systems and their output. I do think this one feature exposes, and I'm not quite sure of the right answer to this question, but in a world where we're generating recommendations and some of them are bad,
Mm.
how do we find that out other than individually looking at every blog post?
Yeah, that's a
That's
good question. You want to have that baked in so you're not just waiting to hear from users of the blog that this is not working.
right, right. So one of the techniques we might use is, it's very tedious to click into each individual thing in a system to make sure that the quality is good. Basically to audit things. Talked a little bit about this in last week's, 2 weeks ago stream, where we basically created an admin interface so that the system and the results of it could be more quickly audited by seeing everything in a list together. So, we have a lot of articles, it's 2,500, but you could envision a system where either there's an admin interface to audit things quickly, or we could expose the recommendations for an article as it's being written or when it's being published to the author. So the author could then say, oh, these are the 3 articles that are going to be recommended automatically on my article. Do I like them? Are they good? And change them. Still need the ability to audit because as new articles are published, the recommendations could change.
Sure.
How have we protected the privacy of individuals and their data? So everything we're dealing with today is public information. So we don't really have this concern, but we actually, as part of today's live stream, are going to address this, which is, running the local LLM and being able to switch to that.
Right.
Cool. Any other thoughts or questions about this?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm excited about that thought that you said to review the links kind of as the post is going up, whether we get that to that or not today. I think that's a great idea as an author
We're
of
not
some of
going to
these
get
posts.
to that today, but it is a good idea. Okay. So let's jump into the implementation. We've been coding in the sort of hub app that we have at thoughtbot, which is a sort of an internal message board scheduling system. It's sort of like an ERP system that we use. Today, we're going to be in a different app, which is the thoughtbot.com app, which runs the blog. It's a Rails app. But we are going to use the gem that we've been using previously, the Ruby OpenAI gem, to talk to OpenAI. And one of the great things, I mentioned it on a previous stream, about this gem is that you can write against OpenAI, but then you can switch which LLM it's actually talking to by pointing at different LLMs.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, different services. The interface on the gem doesn't change. It's the same for all of them, even if we switch to a local like Llama LLM. So we'll be able to, at the end of this, just swap it out and point it at a different LLM.
Nice.
So that's very powerful. And then, so let's talk about embeddings. So I'm going to bring up people who have used OpenAI before might be most familiar with the idea of chat and the sort of nature of asking questions or giving prompts to GPT and getting back a response. And that's what we've been doing on the stream up until now. We could use the same technique that we've been using, basically retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, to come up with the blog posts that we think might be most relevant or related to each other, maybe by tags or by a search or that kind of thing, and then give that as context to a prompt and say, tell us the URLs of the related articles. If we were to implement this that way, one, I don't think the results would be that great, and we can talk about why. But also, we would have to be talking to the LLM live every time we wanted to find the related articles
Hmm.
of uh, to one article. We could save it or cache it, but then we'd have to invalidate that cache and do it again. So embeddings are a very cool tool that sort of takes a piece of how LLMs work and pulls it out and makes it so that we can use it. And the way LLMs work is they build big relationship maps between numbers but between tokens. So they analyze a bunch of text, basically the entire internet, and they build this giant dimensional vector of numbers representing all that information. And then in answering a question or following a prompt, they sort of go through that vector of numbers. This is a gross oversimplification. But
So is it
that's, yeah, go
that
ahead.
that kind of structure then, is that, can you think of that like a graph? You've got these tokens that are connected with edges, or is it sort of a different concept?
No, that's right, and it is that's a great way to think about it, but it is multi-dimensional. It's many dimensions. So you know, two words like king and crown might be next to each other because they're often related, so they'll be
Mhm.
closer together on the graph or in the matrix.
I always used to wonder why mathematicians worked on n-dimensional math, and I thought that, well, that's not really useful. And then I got into computers.
Yeah, yeah. So what embeddings are is asking the LLM to give us back the numbers for a particular piece of text. And it's going to give back this big array of numbers. And it's basically tokenizing the text that we give it and coming up with a vector representation of the text that we gave it. So this is once you ask the LLM to do that once for that piece of text, you never need to compute it again unless you change models, and models have varying different embeddings. As long as you embed all of your stuff with the same model, you can then take those vectors and say, I have the vector for one article. Show me all the articles that have similar vectors sorted by the distance that their things are away from each other. Closest is better.
So you don't
And
need to rerun the embedding if you add a new blog post. You only have to associate with that new vector input.
right, with that new blog post, you just run it on that, and then you can compare that new blog post to all your past blog posts.
Oh, cool.
So this is a useful technique not only for blog posts, if we but it can be used for finding products that are similar. You could create the people who buy this product might also buy these products. You could do that kind of feature using this, because you could sort of create a vector representation of the individual shopping carts that people have done, and then find similar shopping carts to that. So there's lots of different things if you want to come up with the related items to something, that this is a useful technique. It's also worth noting that in the previous live streams we were implementing RAG, retrieval augmented generation, where we're using a thoughtbot, a search engine that thoughtbot already had. And we did that so that we didn't have to implement new infrastructure. But there are specific databases called vector databases that are built to do this. So you take a text, you put it into the vector database, documents, and then it automatically gives you this functionality. And so what we're going to do today, though, is we're going to use a Postgres extension that called PG Vector, which adds vector capabilities to Postgres. So we're going to be able to build and roll out this feature on the thoughtbot blog by adding the capability to do vectors to Postgres.
Neat.
So again, sort of things have advanced to the point now where, as Rails developers building a Postgres app, we can roll out this feature. Amazon RDS supports PG Vector out of the box. You spin up a Postgres instance on RDS, it has PG Vector on it. So we can do this locally, and we can build it without having to introduce new database infrastructure. And for a feature like this, where we have, a few thousand blogs, blog articles that we're doing related together, and that's pretty much the only feature that we're doing. We don't need sort of more advanced features, or we're not going to run into performance problems or anything like that. So doing this right in Postgres is perfect.
Cool.
Okay, we've talked a lot. So let's dive into some code. I have here the thoughtbot.com app. It's a Rails app. It's been around for a long time. It's actually the blog and our entire website. And I was going to the app. So everything for the blog is under a blog namespace, and then we have some other controllers for other pages, other functionality on the website, like our jobs page and that kind of thing. So under the blog, we have, I meant to go to models. And then for models, we have articles, and articles have a title, a body, which is in Markdown, some tags, authors. Authors, we don't factor into the related articles, I think. So what we're mostly going to be focused on is doing the embedding for the combined title, body, and tags for an article.
Makes sense.
And so let's write a spec for this. It's going to be sort of a rudimentary spec to just get us pointed in the right direction a little bit, and to help drive the functionality. We don't have embeddings, we don't have anything yet, so we're gonna sort of start building things up from scratch. So what do you think a good sort of first spec to build from is?
Well, what are we attempting to do right now? We are passing in those couple of fields to the API that will give us back an embedding. Is that what we're doing as the first step?
We could say describe, we'll call it related articles. And I think ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to do a request to the LLM, and when we create an article.
Okay.
So the thing is I happen to know that the way articles are created, in the blog is with this object. And the reason why this is the case is because blog articles are being pushed from GitHub as a payload. And so this object sort of takes that payload, parses it, and actually creates the article. So this is a single point where articles are created, which is nice. I think we're going to have a related articles method, which is going to give us the related articles. But I think if we create like a method just to get us started, like generate embedding, I think that's along the lines of what you were saying, which is where we might move that around or something, but that'll give us a focused place to start adding that functionality to generate the embedding for an article.
Mm-hmm.
So it generates the embedding.
Yeah, that's what it says on the tin.
When in doubt, just start typing, and you can always change it. It generates the embedding for an article. Okay, so we're using FactoryBot, so we can create an article. What did I say was going to matter? I said title,
body, tags.
Yeah, body. This is a test body, and then tags.
That's another model in the system.
It is another model, so we're gonna. And I think, yeah, name is the. Okay. And so then when we call, we're gonna expect article dot embedding to be something. Now, this is a little tricky because embeddings are a number, an array of numbers that is going to be very large. So in theory, we could actually generate the embedding for this thing right here that we're doing, and then put it in like a fixture or right in the test or whatever. But it's big, and I also generally don't like fixtures. And so given that problem, what do I've resorted often to like mocking it out, so that the LLM returns, it's not a real embedding, but it's a shorter array of numbers.
Right.
I'm curious, genuinely, what do you think about that approach?
Yeah, I think especially for making API calls, we're going to be needing to mock out that whole step in the process anyway. So that makes perfect sense, passing back something small enough that you can test the exact thing, which I definitely prefer to do over just the shape of a result.
Yeah. And on systems where we have significant or even maybe not even significant, but on first pass, I'll often do just mocking and stubbing right in the specs so that we can be moving quickly and get things working. But oftentimes I'll end up introducing a fake for OpenAI, which has, for those not familiar, you have the ability to use WebMock to basically have a Sinatra app embedded inside of your test suite, which responds in the same way that a remote service does. And then you can use WebMock and say, when I make requests to chat.openai.org, redirect those requests to our local Sinatra app
No,
instead. And so you end up sort of re-implementing a fake version of the OpenAI API.
nice.
But we're going to use stubbing now. So if we go over to um, the we're going to have the request we're going to do is a call to embeddings, and the way that we write our our call to OpenAI is with client OpenAI client.new. We give it the access token. We can configure that in an initializer. So I'm going to do that, but because we're starting from scratch here, we don't have OpenAI at all. So I think at this point I would probably add the gem because I know we're going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Ruby dash OpenAI. So Ruby OpenAI is a gem that exists for talking to OpenAI from Ruby apps, but like we already talked about, it can also be pointed at other servers. So that's sort of nice because if you decide you want to experiment with something else or switch to something else, you don't need to completely swap out which gem you're using.
Does that mean that there's a standard sort of format for these requests into the LLMs if you're sending an API call?
I think what's actually happening is a lot of people just copied ChatGPT,
Okay.
and the gem is translating between the different servers. So the API for the gem is maintaining consistency, but then it's talking to the different LMs in different ways.
Okay.
Okay, so we bundled and we got that. So let's go back over to the thing. Let's say client equals allow. Oh, no, what am I doing? Allow. No, we're gonna create a double for the client. So, and that client is going. We're gonna call embeddings on it. So it's gonna. And what's going to return is that array of numbers, I believe. Actually, we can go here,
Yeah.
back to the document. So we are going to need to, it comes back in a hash data, there's an array, and then there's embedding. So we can replicate that here. Oops. Did I get that right? So right enough for now.
Looks good to me.
And then we're going to allow OpenAI client to receive new. So we're stubbing out the new method on the client. So when we call new, we're going to get back our fake object, and never actually talk to OpenAI, but we're responding in the same way that OpenAI will.
Excellent. Classic.
And then were you going to say something?
Just this classic use of the doubles and uh, jumping into the new overriding.
Okay, so I think this is a good enough spec to run. We're not expecting it to pass, but it's gonna tell us whether we have any errors, and it's going to okay, name allows lowercase.
Oh,
We have an invalid tag name. Just change it to tag.
yeah, I think you need to
Did I not?
lowercase
Oh,
that t.
thank you. So picky. Okay, so
Us
we have
thoughtbot, we
undefined
like
method
lowercase and
generated
t's.
method. Nice. Okay, so let's pop over to the article and actually introduce the generate embedding. There's no private. So So we expected 1, 2, 3, we got nil
Yeah,
because we're not actually doing anything. If we
sounds about
wanted to
right.
just stop the live stream early, Aji, we could just do this and call it a day. We'd be, look at this. Oh, it didn't work.
Oh,
No. Oh, wait, why did that happen? Oh, because we are not saving the embedding. So it's generating embedding isn't expecting to return. Well, I guess we can't call it a day then.
oh well.
Okay, so we'll actually implement it instead. It was client new. I'm not going to remember this.
No,
The
that's what the docs are for.
yeah, we can paste this in. So this actually so the docs have this model. Like I said, when it comes to which model you want to use for embeddings, they can improve the embeddings. So models can improve embeddings. But you need to be consistent. Embeddings between models aren't necessarily compatible and aren't going to give you good results.
Hmm.
So you need to be consistent. What I am looking up is whether OpenAI has improved, has a different model other than the one in the book, in the docs. Yeah. And so I just looked it up, and it's text embedding 3 large is the model.
And that's you wouldn't be getting back compatible arrays of numbers, those vector embeddings, because that's essentially what the model is, right? The how a certain model takes something into those arrays.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. There's simplification happening in that description, but that is basically, good enough for our purposes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and
Are
so
those
I'm right
the?
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually think you've got the arguments for the embedding method calling up the client new. Unless I'm
Yeah,
getting
you're
this wrong.
right.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay. So as you were having that thought, I was realizing that we really should add an expectation here. Expect client to have received embeddings width. And so what we're expecting it to be called with is parameters model, and then that model and then in terms of the input, what we're expecting is we want the article title, article tags, calling tags. I don't.
What is that gonna give us back?
Yeah, that's an array. That's a relation. An enumeration of tag models.
Is there a helper method to get those out, or should we map?
Let's see.
Sorting.
I think, yeah, so we can get an array of ordered tag names using this method. And you know what? How about we just write this as like, actually, that's fine. And then article body.
Okay. Is that the kind of first pass at it, or is that all the formatting you need to do to the input to get back a useful embedding?
That's all you need to do to the input. It's just sending the text. It could be any string that you want. It's going to give you the embedding. So the double received unexpected message embeddings with the parameters. And the error is the parameters are received. The food was delicious and the waiter. So that's back over here where we had copied and pasted that. So we have title,
order tags.
Undefined method or variable ordered. Oh,
ordered.
So it passed. I wasn't actually expecting that to pass. And the reason why is because we have an expectation that the embedding should be 1, 2, 3. We're not actually saving it here. There's also no, oh, you know what's happening? Stop the stream. No, what's happening is on my local database, I still have an embedding field from when I ran the version of this that we've already
that you've done before. Yeah.
And so the way Active Record works, if you have a field, it's going to automatically pick it up. Okay, that's it. I don't want to drop the whole database because it has the articles in it. And I can't roll back because I don't have those migrations that added that field. I think if we go to DB console, we can write a manual alter table command. Alter table, articles, drop column. I think we need to quote it.
Embeddings.
Got it right in one.
Hmm.
And we need to do it.
Because that was in development. We need to do that in tests as well, right?
Yeah. Well, we can drop the test database.
Hmm.
PB test prepare. So now if we run this, hopefully we get the failure I was expecting. There we go. Oh, now it's saying it received an unexpected message.
Embeddings. And we've only, no, never mind. We are telling
So
it we're
title,
expecting.
ordered tags. So it received it with input, test title. Oh, the ordered tags is an empty array here.
Hmm.
And then we have the body. So
Well, and we're using the same method in both places, right? So wouldn't that still match?
Yeah, received unexpected message embeddings with parameters, input model, title, ordered tag names, and body.
Model input, yeah. Hmm.
I don't see the difference.
No.
Let's change something to just see.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, here, let's.
Does it diff the expected at all?
It's not diffing. And so that makes me, that's a good point. That makes me believe, oh,
Oops.
we're not stubbing, we never stub the embedding method on client.
Oh, right. We're have received, not
Embeddings.
Yep.
So we didn't quite set that up the right way the first time around. So that method wasn't even, which is why it wasn't diffing either, because we didn't stub it. So what it was actually saying is you're calling a method you didn't actually stub. Okay, undefined method embedding for an instance of article.
Okay.
Cool. So now we want, oh, let's put this back.
Body, I think.
I just really want the title, dude.
I think we're going to get better recommended articles though if we include some of the content. So
I suppose. Okay, undefined method embedding for an instance of article.
right. Okay, we expect that.
So in getting ready to implement this feature, I'll do now exactly what I did when getting ready to implement this feature, and that was I had done enough research to know that we wanted to use embeddings,
Hmm.
and so first thing I did was I Googled whether Postgres supports embeddings, and I learned yes, it does. It's an extension called PG Vector. Um, and actually, so I was on this thing looking at it. Okay, awesome. It's going to work perfect. Check whether AWS, which is where we're deployed on RDS, supports PG Vector out of the box. It does. Perfect. So then I Googled um, whether there was already a gem for active model
Mm.
that allowed you to query vectors. In fact, I think what I actually was just Ruby PG vector, Ruby Rails PG vector. And I found
Okay.
two gems. The first one is PG Vector Ruby, um, and looked at that. It's you know fine, but it's not. It's Ruby PG sort of um, not active record
Hmm.
specific thing for querying those. So see, it's not gonna come up now, but that eventually led me to searching for a Rails active record specific thing. Led me to this gem, which
Okay.
is the neighbor gem. And what neighbor does is it supports Postgres PG vector. It supports a few other things as well, but it provides an active record interface to embeddings. You say this item that you have has neighbors, um, and you tell it which field is the embedding, and then you can find nearest neighbors on that field, and it's going to sort them by distance. So perfect, and that's the gem we're going to use. So if you read the documentation for this, it also adds the database, the ability to generate the extension, the migration to add the extension to
Oh, great.
Postgres. So I've already installed. So to install the extension, I want to limit the amount of downloading I was doing
Yeah.
today, but you can um, that's interesting. Um, oh yeah, you just install it via
Ah,
Homebrew, brew install PG Vector, and it goes right in to Postgres.
great.
So let's go over to the gem file. While that goes, we'll come back over here. So the command, um, so cube is a different kind of thing. It's not what embeddings come back in.
Hmm.
So it has support for it, but that's because Postgres has support for cube, and then there's
Hmm.
PG vector. So we're going to be working with vectors, so we need to do the
Cool. Yeah,
and we'll
this is
take a
going to
look at what
teach
that generates. It's just
nice and easy.
one line thing. Enable extension vector.
Active record making it easy for us.
Yeah. So now we've got that installed. I've lost the thread on what we were. So I'm going to run the specs or sort of reorientate myself on the failure. Undefined method embedding for an instance of article.
Mm-hmm.
So now we need to add that embedding Rails G migration, add embeddings to articles. And we have the, you just add column. So I'll copy this whole line and then we'll talk about dimensions.
It has 3 dimensions. That sounds kind of like a cube.
Yes, yeah. So the dimensions we're getting back, I forget off the top of my head how many dimensions that model from OpenAI does. I think it's something like 8,000 or something like that. So if you read you might do exactly what I did when I was implementing this, be like, well, what limit should we have? Should it be the limit based on what we're going to get back from our model? Honest answer is I'm not sure. But if you don't have one at all, it doesn't really matter because you're putting them in. It's a dynamic field. That's really just like a validation.
Sure.
So
I'd be curious if there were maybe some performance improvements or anything like that that having an explicit limit might add, but
yeah, and I looked and couldn't really find anything definitive on it, so I decided to move on.
Yeah, below the threshold of needing to optimize.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have that field added. Let's run the spec again. Did I spell it wrong?
Did you ran the migration? Yeah.
I did run the migration, but I just ran the spec file individually, and I think sometimes that. Okay, cool. Okay. So now our test database has that field as well, and you can see we're expecting 1, 2, 3. We got nil. So now if we go back to our generate embedding method, here's where our get the response. And I was going to say, here's where our if we can data 0 embeddings. And then we can call update.
Excellent.
That may in fact pass if we've set everything up correctly and we've digged the right, there we go.
All right.
Cool. So that's talking to Open API. That's got so let's actually go to Rails console now.
Actually talk to the LLM.
Yeah, so article.first is article ID 1 was published Sunday, November 6th, 2005.
Wow.
It was called Try Ruby. If you've heard about Ruby, okay, cool. So if we just, and we'll get our first glimpse at what a embedding actually looks like too. The server responded with status 401. Can you guess why?
Mm, we haven't given it our tokens or any
Exactly,
authentication.
exactly. I said it at the beginning and then forgot to do it. So we'll create an initializer. Just Now I have a sneaking suspicion that I named the environment variable something else, and I can't verify it on the stream because then you'll see the config, the our API key, and then you'll be able to rack up all these charges on our OpenAI account. So let me confirm what I actually called it.
I can
Yeah, it's
take your screen off
populating.
if you found it.
I got it. I got it.
Mm.
Cool. So now we can see what an embedding looks like, or not.
Do we need to reload our model?
It should have just saved it, but
No.
okay. Um, so we probably got our so let's actually put the response here. What I suspect is we got that format wrong.
I think it's singular embedding,
Oh yeah.
but let's find out.
Oh, I didn't reset the article. So it still have the old method.
There we go.
Okay.
Model. Are we going to be able to get to the top?
Yeah.
There we go.
So it's data, then an array, then embedding. Yeah. Okay, so this is one problem with mocking in general is you can create both sides of your mock to be wrong,
Mm.
and then your test will pass, but things still don't actually work. That's one of the advantages of having a fake. It's still possible, but it's a little less likely.
Mhm. And that's something that a project like VCR is
Yeah.
filling that space.
Cool. So now our embedding is in there. You could see that it is a very large array of floating point numbers, which describe the text of the article in a way that can be then compared to other articles. And that PG vector is going to do that. So let's
Yeah, I see it right there. It says, "Have you heard of Ruby?"
yeah.
It's easy to understand.
Awesome. So now we have embeddings. And they're being we have a method to save them. So now let's set up it returns related articles by embedding. So again, we have the option where we could basically be like create real embeddings, then test. And actually, I do sort of recommend that in maybe like a full system where you're doing more complicated things and you really want to make sure that the matches are good or something
Mm.
like that. But in our case, we can continue to do what we're doing, which is basically give an article the same embeddings, create two articles with the same embeddings, um, and we're going to run and then an article with a bad embedding. Now, we don't actually know what these numbers mean.
Mm.
So with this strategy, I ran into a problem. The way I decided to solve it for now is I just set the embedding to nil. Because when you, the problem I was running into is setting these fake things.
Mm.
Basically, they're always going to be related. Also, the nearest neighbor gem um, gives you all the related articles sorted by distance.
Okay.
So what we will do eventually is, and this is the way the production system works, is we sort of have a threshold cutoff where we say like, don't even consider related articles further away than this. But
Mm.
for this initial implementation, basically, unless we have no embedding at all, we're going to get back every article we create.
Right. If we've only
You get
got
what I'm
three.
saying?
Yeah.
Um, and so, um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, I think that makes a spec. So let's
See, you fail. You've created your own embeddings there. You've got your own vectors. We've invented Chad GPT.
thank you. How long were we waiting to do that, Joe?
Oh, that one just came to me. I
Oh,
got
okay.
to deploy it right away.
Awesome. Undefined method related articles.
Cool.
So we can we already added the neighbor gem because we were getting the thing. So if we go over to the
Data type.
documentation for the neighbor gem, we had it up there before. We need to say that it has neighbors.
Okay.
And
That's
then,
the field or the column name.
yeah.
Record to a vector. Ah,
Okay. So let's. So here's. So you may be wondering at this point, is the distance we should be using Euclidean? Um, at least that's what I was wondering.
hmm.
Because if you read through the documentation, um, there's something about, uh, yeah, supported values are Euclidean, cosine, taxicab, Hamming. I
First
really
two.
want to use Hamming or taxicab. Um,
Have you
so
done any look into knowing which one is best for this kind of operation that we're doing?
that's yeah, and actually, if you look into it, what you'll find is um, OpenAI's documentation around embeddings says Euclidean and cosine will return the exact same results
Hmm.
for their model, for the model that we're using.
Mhm.
But cosine will perform better,
Oh.
which I don't understand the math behind that, but I don't need to right now.
Mhm.
Uh, but that was a journey that I did some research on and got to that point. So um, we want to use cosine.
To brush up on your vector algebra, linear algebra.
Yeah. And we're going to show three uh, articles there. Okay. Let's see what happens if we run this. Passes. So let's go back to our console and we don't have we only embedded one article. We only generated the embedding for the first article, right?
Mhm.
So if we do that, we get nothing back
Yep,
because
makes sense.
um, so now we'll do um, we generate the embedding for just the second random. Actually, let's see what it is just for fun. The correct amount of planning. Don't plan too much or too little.
Oh, great.
Amazing. Okay, so if we generated the embedding for that, now if we say article related articles, we get uh, that one back.
Okay. So this is doing that. It was very fast, but we only have 2 articles here. This is doing
Mhm.
that distance calculation every time that we're calling related
It
articles.
is in SQL, and it's made the performance is good because we're using the PG vector gem, and they've made it a native function of Postgres.
Yeah,
So in general, I found that the performance is pretty good.
cool.
Um, okay, so now what we'll do is uh, embed the first 100 articles.
Okay.
I think that looks right. So this, I wrote about this on the blog. Um, it was to generate embeddings on our 2,500 articles. Oh, now I think it was about 60 cents, 70 cents uh, to run. So
Oh,
we're not racking up huge charges here, and they're one-time charges until we
right.
like change models or something like that.
I can't tell you, loading the entire blog into local LLM did take a good like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Doing it 1 year at a time, otherwise it would refuse.
So when we, then one of the next thing, like on one of our checklist items on the to-do list for this would be to make this a rake task
Hmm.
to re-embed the articles. Okay, while that runs, we're coming up on, so cool. Didn't
Nice.
didn't need to say what I was gonna say. So now we'll do related articles. We're gonna get this is like a trip down
Hey.
memory lane. So we get an article about Hackety Hack, um, which is a learning environment for learning Ruby. Oh, this is here.
Oh,
Let's.
it's gonna take a while. There we go.
So the ones are Hackety Hack, a growing contingent, camping, goes camping, and making a radio station with Ruby. So we've
Is that
only done 100 articles, right? So But it's taking the three most relevant articles and it's giving them to us based on the embeddings.
Is that camping the small Ruby MVC framework?
Yes, yes.
I have a
Created
physical copy that was given to me at this last RubyConf.
a physical copy.
Yeah.
Of
Uh,
like the book.
no, it is a SD card with the camping gem on it, and
Wow,
I think it's adorable.
nice. Okay, so let's replace this with our local LLM. So we mentioned this Ruby OpenAI gem
Hmm.
supports a few different. You can point it at different servers.
Mm.
So that's going to lead us to Olama. And what Olama is, we can install it with Homebrew, and Olama allows you to run open source LLMs locally on a Mac that uses the neural processing unit and all that stuff. Performance isn't going to be on my local Mac the same as running it against this huge compute cluster in the cloud, but it's actually running locally. You call Olama serve, which starts the server, and then you need to download the models that you have.
Okay.
So this model here is about 4.7 gigabytes.
Mm.
And so I'm not going to download it right now. I already downloaded it in advance.
The one you prepared earlier.
Yes. But we do need to start the server. So, Olama serve. And you can see what it's doing is it starts an HTTP server that communicates via the APIs. And then it knows how to use the libraries. And the API that it exposes is very similar, if not identical, to the ChatGPT API. And with that running, we can say Olama list, and it'll list the LLMs that I have loaded in. And there actually is a CLI as well, where you can load the CLI and write prompts just like you would with an LLM that on a web page.
Like that.
So that is running on port 11434. So we can go over here to our, oops. And point at that. And now we need to change the model. Okay, 404. I think the reason why is I need to put the full.
Okay.
So it's saying 404 model, like page not found is the status it gives when you don't have a model loaded. So that's generating the model for that. You can see in the logs.
But significantly.
Yeah. And we're not being charged at all
right.
for the generation of the embeddings.
Just from the power company.
True. So you can see it's printing out a bunch of information about the request that's being made and what it's doing. And responding at the embedding v1/embeddings endpoint. That was just while it was loading the model, so it doesn't do that every single time. It's just the first time it loads the model, it prints out all that information about it. And so now, just out of curiosity, I'm pretty sure that if we
Yeah.
Paul related articles, it is going to return, no, different vector dimensions. Okay, cool.
Oh,
Yeah. So OpenAI's model returns the vector. Oh, I said 8,000. It's 4,096, um, or 372. So the other model does that. So that's going to do that. So if we
but presumably if they were the same dimensions, it would calculate based purely on those numbers, and we would get completely unrelated articles.
yeah, exactly. Oop, Rails. Isn't there like a one command that does this?
Um, I always made an alias. I learned this at Dev Bootcamp. DB YOLO,
Nice.
just blow everything away and rebuild it.
Okay, so now if we it's gonna take a little longer. Let's do 50. If we don't, I wanted to do, I should have done 50 the first time. Uh, but it is what it is. But I want to compare the results.
Mm.
Um,
And it's going to have that same
local
trouble
model.
again if
It's
only
going to be
50 are.
faster this time because the model's already loaded. A lot of the significant time that
Oh
we
yeah,
saw there
wow.
was actually the model being loaded for the first time. And you can see it's going faster now that the model's loaded.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
If you go to the page for Olama, oh no, not a page. It was a blog post about someone who was doing stuff with embeddings using Olama as the server. They actually said in the post that they tested across several different computers and found that the Mac was the most performant. And that's in part
Yeah,
because of the neural
neural engines. Yeah,
the neural processing unit in there, the neural engine.
yeah,
Copilot plus AI PCs have NPUs now, but performance on the Mac is still good.
yeah. That would be probably offloaded to like a graphics card or something, ideally, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to be doing a lot of churning through this kind of math,
Mm-hmm.
can't beat that 3 nanometer process.
Um, cool. So while this runs, let's just do the plug. This is the kind of thing where if you're a developer watching, I hope you've come away from this stream with a feeling like, oh, this is programming. I know this. You do need to do research into embeddings and everything, but there is a very common technique for doing comparisons and finding related items um, in a data set. And then two, if you're someone who needs help with this, has an idea for a product, we work with all kinds of teams to collect everyone's ideas of possible uses of AI, or if you have an idea, to validate it really quickly to see whether it produces great results, and then to put together a plan for actually implementing it and bringing it into your product or your back office operations to streamline things you might be doing manually now. We do amazing design, development of great products that people love to use. And you can get in touch with us at thoughtbot.com/hire-us, or just thoughtbot.com and click on the button.
We're around.
We're around. We're on the internet.
I've heard of that.
Um,
Right, almost there.
Almost. We're at 73. Yeah, I should have done 50 the first time.
Well, you want to get the best possible article relationships.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to do that with such a small sample size. So Yeah, I love
So
that.
any other, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that working through a feature like this really kind of demonstrates that this is the same kind of work that developers are good at. This is what web application developers are doing. It's learning a new technology, sure, but it's a lot of the same interoperability of systems and things that we've been doing and know how to do and know how to learn new processes for when they arise.
Mhm.
And it takes away a lot of the kind of black box or maybe like off on an ivory tower of LLMs that interacting with it and making useful features with it doesn't require a PhD in, you know,
Yeah.
mathematics.
Yeah, and even I find test-driven develop like this is what one of the reasons why I love test-driven development is because it's like I don't know how to do this, but I know that if I start writing a spec,
Mm,
it will lead me to the next step. And that's, honestly how I did this the first time around, which is just like, I had done enough research to know that embeddings were probably the right tool and find the gem, and go from there. Okay,
nice.
let's see. Need to pluck the oh, gotta
Oh,
load the article first.
right.
Three completely different articles.
Yeah.
Um, and I would say that these results probably are not as good as the other result that we got. So that's really interesting to me.
Mm.
Um,
It's hard to tell by the titles, though, really.
Oh, I remember the posts. That's
Oh,
why.
well, there you go.
I would say in terms of like the spirit of that try Ruby post,
Hmm.
the other posts were probably more along the lines of that. These ones are this one's about Jira.
Yeah.
Um, this one's about Java, and this one's about Active Resource, which was part of Rails a very long time ago, and no longer is.
So this is the difference between the models, and that might take a little bit of experimenting with the few that are available to find the one that you think matches your
Yeah,
data set the best, right?
right, right. And it's also possible that like um, if we loaded in more of the articles, this one would give us better results, and that it is
Mm,
just presenting three results that happen to be from the first 100 articles the best
right.
under different models, but that it would become better as we loaded more in.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Well, Aji, thank you for joining me today. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. You've been a pleasure to work with.
Thanks for taking me through this.
And I hope that everyone enjoys this. And if you have any questions or comments or whatever, do not hesitate to get in touch. I'm more than happy to help.
Hi, everybody.